Maybe. There, uh-oh. All right. Welcome to DDRC members, staff, and guests. Multiple staff members are present to make sure that the meeting runs smoothly and all applicants and citizens are able to communicate with the commission at the appropriate time.
If you are here today and would like to speak about a case, please provide your name clearly into the microphone, and please be sure to sign in either at the back of the room or at the podium for documentation purposes. If you are here today to speak about a case, you must speak up when the chairperson calls for public comment. I will call the roll. Ms. Gallo?
Here.
Mr. Greenberg? Here. Ms. Jaco?
Here.
Mr. Lee Decker?
Here.
Mr. McKenzie?
Here.
And Mr. Shelton?
Here.
We have quorum.
In order to avoid ex parte communications, DDRC members are under strict instructions not to discuss cases under consideration with the public or with each other outside of the public forum. The meeting typically starts with staff calling the case, giving a summary of the project, and then calling on the applicant to present if they wish. Decisions are typically made in one evening. Decisions may be appealed within 30 days to a court of competent jurisdiction. Oaths will be administered individually as we hear either from applicants or from live speakers. Applicants with requests before the DDRC are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions asked by DDRC or staff regarding their request. Members of the general public are given the opportunity to address their concerns in intervals of 2 minutes. Applicants may have 5 minutes to respond. Staff has a timer and will make presenters aware of when their time has expired. Are there any changes to the agenda? No?
Yeah.
Okay. The DDRC uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. If a member of the DDRC or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda, that item is removed from the consent agenda and considered during the meeting. The DDRC then approves the remaining consent agenda items. Will staff please read the consent agenda?
Pardon me, just one moment. 712? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, there was one change to the agenda that I neglected to mention. It is item number 7 on the consent agenda, 712 Union Street, a request for design approval for construction of a single-family home in the Earlwood Protection Area, Area B, has been deferred.
This one.
Oh,
That was, yeah.
sorry, 708 Union Street. Sorry for the confusion.
Just clarify, so item 7 does show 712, but it's just the numbers wrong?
I'm sorry, item number 7, 712 Union Street is going forward. My mistake.
Gotcha.
Item number 4, under the historic agenda, which is 708 Union Street, request for approval for construction of a single-family home has been deferred. That's in Earlwood. That is the only change.
Is it on the last page? Oh, thank you, because I'm sitting here.
Yeah, it's on,
I'm not
it's
seeing this.
on
Okay.
page 5.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
So I will continue with the consent agenda. The first item is 4120 North Main Street, request for design approval for renovations to a single-family home in the North Main Corridor Design Overlay District. Item 2 is 2608 Cardinal Street, request for preliminary certification of the Bailey Bill. This is an individual landmark. 3 is 1418 Gladden Street, request for design approval for an addition. This is the Melrose Heights Oak Lawn Architectural Conservation District. Item 4 is 2201 Lincoln Street, request for design approval for a garage in the Elmwood Park Architectural Conservation District. Next is 100 Mulberry Lane, a request for preliminary certification of the Bailey Bill in the Whaley Protection Area. Item 6 is 2410 Green Street, request for design approval for construction of a single-family home in the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area. Item 7, 712 Union Street, a request for design approval for construction of a single-family home in the Earlwood Protection Area, Area B. Item number 8, 830 Maple Street, request for design approval for construction of an outbuilding in the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area, Area A. And number 9, 916 Walnut Street, request for design approval for construction of a single-family home in the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area, Area B.
Sorry, my screen went out, but I'm going to use this one. Is there anyone from the DDRC that would like any item removed from the consent agenda? Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Because once we move off the consent agenda, the cases will not be discussed. All right, do I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda, subject to all terms and conditions, as well as the October minutes?
I'll move for approval of the consent agenda, including all the staff recommendations for individual properties, along with approval of the October minutes.
Do you have a second? Second, okay.
Ms. Jaco?
Yes?
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg? Yes. Mr. Lee Decker?
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes.
And Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. All right, we'll move on to the regular agenda.
Case number 1 on the regular agenda is located at 1331 Gervais Street. Overlooking the northwest corner of the intersection of Gervais and Marion Streets, the site of this proposed bank branch location is in the heart of downtown. While not currently in use, the site is host to an existing single-story drive-through bank building. This proposal involves the removal of that existing drive-through structure and the construction of a new single-story bank branch building and remote drive-through outbuilding with 3 lanes. The proposed Huntington Bank Branch building is 2,800 square feet. Section 5.2 of the guidelines on architectural style or theme. The proposed single-story structure has a contemporary architectural language that is sympathetic with the neighboring modernist tower at 1301 Gervais. While it sits in stark comparison to the Trinity Episcopal Church complex on the opposite side of Gervais, this bank branch proposal's use of brick as a primary cladding material adds a richness that helps relate it to neighboring historic structures. On section 5.3.1 on building height of the guidelines, staff finds that with exception to a single-story auto-oriented structure built in the 1960s that sits at the opposite corner of the intersection of Gervais and Marion Streets, the buildings that immediately surround the site are between 3 and 21 stories tall. As such, staff finds the exploration of additional height in this proposal appropriate. Section 5.3.5 on wall articulation. There are no large unadorned street walls in this proposal. Metal canopies that frame the storefront windows and entry add variety to this proposal. A section of building mass currently clad in green brick pushes out from the plane of the Gervais Street facade and above the roof line. This gesture helps ground the project and break up its horizontality. While signage for this proposal must come back for a separate review, a large figurative sign that's centralized on this Gervais Street facade's vertical green element helps activate that wall face. Section 5.4.1 on setbacks. The proposed placement of the bank branch building footprint requires the removal of 3 healthy live oak trees that line Gervais and Marion Streets. These shade trees contribute greatly to the overall character of those streets. In order to preserve that character and for this proposal to better relate to the surrounding context, staff finds it appropriate that the building setback on Gervais Street be increased to align with the building face of the neighboring tower at 1301 Gervais. The Gervais Street facade of the 1301 Gervais Street building aligns almost perfectly with the inside edge of the planter containing the Gervais Street live oak trees. Similar efforts should be made by setting the building face further back from the Marion Street property line to preserve the live oak trees on Marion, which contribute greatly again to the character of that street. On section 5.5 in open spaces in private development, by adjusting the bank bench building setbacks to be more contextually appropriate, a more generous pedestrian realm would be created along Gervais and Marion Streets. These open spaces should be populated with additional landscaping that line the base of the building. Connectivity with the existing sidewalks along Gervais and Marion Streets should be maintained in these small, intense open spaces. There is an abundance of open space on the interior of the site that is well landscaped. On section 5.7.1, storefront composition, accessories, and details, a metal canopy helps pronounce the proposed primary entry on the building's north elevation. This primary entry should be shifted to the building's southeast corner and overlook the intersection of Gervais and Marion Streets. This new entry should be emphasized at the street using the devices listed above. The metal canopy that currently wraps the building's southeast corner should be preserved in this new entryway design. Section 5.7.2 on exterior walls and materials. The proposed bank branch building and drive-through outbuilding are clad almost entirely in white and dark green glazed brick. Lime and dark green metal panels accent the bank branch building's north elevation and the canopies and coping on both structures. While these colors reflect the branding of Huntington Bank, staff finds that a more subdued material palette with fewer bright and or contrasting colors should be explored. On section 6.8, and specifically 6.8.2 on surface parking, 15 surface parking spaces are located internally on this site. Existing trees that encircle the property, those shade trees, do a good job of screening the interior of the site. To provide continuous landscape screening as recommended in these guidelines, staff finds that additional hedges or low solid masonry walls should be installed north of the Gervais Street property line, where sections of surface parking are still visible from the right-of-way, and along the Marion Street property line immediately north of the bank branch building. I should note that since the publication of this evaluation, the applicant has provided updated drawings that I'm including in this presentation just to indicate the applicant's willingness to respond to the conditions that I'm about to list. Before I'll get to those, I'll read off the list of conditions for approval. Staff recommends approval of the request with the condition that the following items be revised and deferred to staff for approval. Increase the building setback on Gervais and Marion Streets to preserve the existing shade trees on the site's perimeter. Relocate the primary building entry to the southeast corner of the site. Install additional screening of the surface parking along Gervais and Marion Streets. Increase the percentage of openings on the Gervais Street facade. Explore alternative cladding materials with fewer bright and or contrasting colors. Explore adding height to the bank branch building, and working with staff through the encroachment process to ensure all improvements in the right-of-way meet city standards, that signage must come back for a separate review, and that any changes to the design or additional details that are developed be submitted to staff for review.
So let me just ask staff, the updated drawings, did they address all the components that you had listed, or?
They've begun to address them. I wouldn't say they've addressed them all, but it's, again, more to kind of show the commission that they're headed in the right direction.
Okay.
Could we flip through those again, please?
So you see they're setting the building back as recommended. They're exploring adding some height. And I believe the applicant is here. I'll let them speak more to the new design, but they're adding height, increased fenestration near the corner, and shifting the entrance to the corner.
Okay, is there anybody presenting on this today, or are we just? All right, yeah. If you plan to speak, please come up and make sure you've signed in either before or after you speak, just so we have it down. And whoever's speaking, when you come up to the microphone, I'll have you state your name and swear you in, so, okay?
Hello, my name is Taras Kass. I'm with Gensler Architect in this project.
Do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I can start. So yeah, as mentioned, we have taken into account all of the staff comments, and we have made some adjustments to the building. I don't know if you can go to page 10 to look at the site plan. So we have indicated in green areas not to disturb areas for the live oak trees, which we understand are an important part of this town. And so the bank has been willing to adjust their program. So before we had a drive up remotely located with 3 lanes, and now we have downscaled it to just 1 lane right up against the building. So they have adjusted their program in order to fit the building on the site, because obviously with the trees, no disturb zone, the site workable area is decreasing slightly, right? So the parking is slightly rearranged, and we have pushed the building into the site. So architecturally, we have also, like mentioned, responded to the height of the building with a clear story design and also the fenestration requirements. Now, the biggest thing is, I guess, are the brand colors, right? And Huntington, they are expanding their Ohio-based bank that are expanding to South Carolina and North Carolina markets, and so they are new to this region. So they try to establish their presence and their brand recognition. So those are important to them. And based on this site, I don't know if you can go to the page where we show the elevations and composition of the street with the trees, and that would be page, let's see, I think it's.
I don't believe that's included in this presentation.
It's number, let's see.
Sir, they don't have access.
Oh, they don't have, okay. So we had an elevation of showing the streetscape view, but essentially we've just been there to the side. The live oak trees, they're super large with the canopies, right? So when you stand from the street, the building is going to be pretty much covered from the street views, like for the most part, right? Because the canopy is quite tall, the trees are large. So we are hoping that maintaining these brand colors will help customers, again, give visibility. As they arrive to the site, the building will be mostly visible from the interior of the site rather than outside. And then, right, so we rearranged the building, so now the entry is off of the parking, and that is the main entry there. The way the bank functions, that area that bumps out, that's the teller area. And I don't know if we have the plan layout for this, of the interior. No, okay.
Just included these to illustrate the shifting design.
Got you. So basically that area that bumps out, that's where the teller area is. So we are proposing to add employee entrance next to that area, but the main entry would still be off of the parking. And that is tied to the security because they don't want to have, like in this image you can see, they don't want to have any customers like regular comment behind the tellers. They want to have visibility for anybody, and that's tied to the security protocols. Anybody coming in, they want to have visual of who comes in, right, for the safety reasons. So architecturally, we responded to the requirement of putting the door in the canopy to indicate that as an architectural entrance, but we'd like to have that as employee entrance only. Any site?
No, I think you covered the site stuff.
Right.
Does any commissioners have any comments or questions to the presenters? Anybody? Is there any, it sounds like y'all are working together and finding a path forward? Okay.
That's right, yep.
And I don't know what to say about the bright green, but I mean, I understand branding. We all have branding. All right, no questions or comments here? All right, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did anybody else sign up to speak on this topic? Yeah, just make sure you sign in. Thank you. No? Okay.
Just to clarify for everybody
Sure.
that, in the conditions for approval, still remains to explore, explore alternative cladding materials with fewer bright and or contrasting colors, and I stand by that, just to make clear.
Right, no. So I think your recommendations in here are still valid. Sounds like y'all are making progress towards this, is what I'm hearing, right?
That's right,
Okay. All right,
Yeah, I guess my question would be, with the updated drawings, do you feel like they're moving in that direction of the contrasting colors being so diverging?
Not in that aspect, which is why when asked earlier if this is fully meeting the recommendations, it's not, but it's certainly getting in the right direction. I would say flushing out those materials is one of the few remaining things that needs to be addressed based on the conditions.
Okay, yeah, I guess the question was like the lime green
Yeah.
top, you envision towards the end of negotiations and design, we probably won't land at such a stark color gradient, right?
Agreed, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right, doesn't sound like we have any other public comments. No one has signed up. All right, so I'm going to open it up for a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'm going to make a motion to grant the certificate of design approval for 1331 Gervais Street with the following recommendations. Increase the building setback on Gervais and Marion Streets to preserve the existing shade trees on the site's perimeter. Relocate the primary building entry to the southeast corner of the site. Install additional screening on the surface parking lot along Gervais and Marion Streets. Increase the percentage of openings on Gervais Street facade. Explore alternative cladding materials with fewer bright and/or contrasting colors. Explore adding height to the bank branch building. Work with staff through the encroachment process to ensure all improvements in the right-of-way meet city standards. Any signage must come back for a separate review, and any changes to the design or additional details that are developed be submitted to staff for review.
Any second?
Second. Ms. Jaco?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg? Mr. Lee Decker?
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next case.
Thank you. So the next case is 931 Senate Street. This is a request for a certificate of design approval for new construction in the West Gervais Street Historic Commercial District. This is the largest new construction that we've had in this district in my tenure here in 20 years. And it is a project that is taking place across from the Hilton and is adjacent to Monterey's, and some of the other buildings just adjacent to Monterey's are one-story non-contributing buildings that can be demolished to make way for this new construction. So here are a few.
I'm sorry, Amy, before we get in the presentation, if I could, I noticed the staff recommendation on this is going to be a deferral. Have you had the opportunity to discuss that with the applicant?
Yes.
Yeah, and have they had the opportunity to review all the suggestions that are listed?
Yes, we've had clear conversations.
If I could, I would just ask the applicant if, would they consent to a deferral as you work through these additional items?
Well, I think that it would be an opportunity for them to present and get some feedback from the commission.
Okay.
And then that way we can move forward, perhaps.
Okay.
And y'all may have a different opinion
Okay,
than
thank
staff recommendation. So this is the site. So, oops. Oh. Sorry, the tricky pointer. I won't try to use the pointer on this, but the Monterey's, the arrow is showing the Monterey's there on the corner and the Hilton across the street. To the right is a picture of the existing buildings that are on site, the one-story buildings that are non-contributing. The bottom picture shows the far right of the site. It is adjacent to the historic building that is two-story building that's extant. So what is proposed is a 7-story multifamily project with 221 units, 512 beds, and it will occupy approximately a quarter of the block. Please note that the staff report characterized the project as student housing, but with a maximum of 3 beds per unit, it is more correctly referred to as multifamily. In addition to the units, the project contains a parking garage with 198 spaces and retail uses planned for the first floor corner of the building at Park and Senate Streets, and there is also a lobby entry on Senate Street. So as you probably noticed, I hope you've noticed, it's a rather long staff evaluation, so I'm not going to go through and read every evaluation or every recommendation. Rather, I'm going to concentrate on the points that are points of concern for the evaluation, and then we'll move through the PowerPoint addressing details of staff recommendations. So generally, the building is 7 stories in height and about 80 feet tall. The height is regulated through the base zoning, which allows up to 80 feet, and also the height overlay subdistrict, which requires that above 55 feet, the building must step back 25 feet on frontages at the street. The 55-foot limit is intended to encourage a more pedestrian scale, particularly in areas such as the Vista, where a pedestrian scale dominates, and the project meets these requirements. Regarding massing and scale, the project is quite large, and staff and the architects have been working together to reduce the massing of the building into components which are sized to be more reflective of the historic patterns in the Vista. Varying materials and architectural detailing have been utilized to this end, and the project has come a long way, but staff finds that the massing of the building from the north and west is over large and needs further efforts towards reducing it down. In terms of materials, brick and stucco are approved primary materials per the guidelines, with secondary materials being wood, cast stone, natural stone, terracotta, metal, glass, and cast iron, materials we might see for storefronts or foundations. The applicants are proposing to use a combination of brick, metal, and cement fiberboard as primary materials, with metal panels also as a secondary material. So the proposed use of metal panels as a primary material does not meet the guidelines. Generally, the fenestration in the project is very good, and I promise I'll get to the pictures in just a second. There are some areas particularly where metal panels are proposed where the window placement is asymmetrical and not reflective of historic patterns. Likewise, some window pane configurations are not reflective of those we see in the district. Staff has concerns about window reveals, the depth of the windows in the wall plane, particularly with the metal panel portions of the building where the alternative material use seems to result in a lack of this depth. Okay, so here is the site plan for the project. You'll see that on the right side, which is actually Park Street, there are 2 garage entries there. There is storefront at the bottom, and as you turn the corner, there's going to be a lobby entry as it runs along Senate Street. And we'll try. Let's see if got the print. So here are the garage entries along Park Street. This will be storefront, storefront here and here, another entry here, and this is the back of the building as it faces the west. So here's the parking garage here. This is commercial and some residential here, and then utility for the garage, I believe, there. Here's a floor plan. I only included one. The applicants have more in their presentation, which will follow mine, but you can see that the residential is around the perimeter of the building, and there is a swimming pool and sort of terrace at the core. So this is the Park Street elevation. As you come into the vista down Gervais, this would be on your left down Park Street. You can see here, here is one garage entry. Here's the second. Here's the storefront I mentioned. Brick very effectively anchors this building as you would enter into the Gervais Street district. It's a common material there, the primary material in the district, so I feel like this elevation is very successful. There's a lot of articulation and detailing in the brick to provide interest to the facade. The pattern of fenestration is very good in the brick elements of the building. This area here is where you get into a slightly more asymmetrical pattern that's less common in the district, and this is metal panel here. This would be considered a secondary element in staff's view because it's a very minor component of this facade of the building. So find that this material would be acceptable here if we can work out window placement and reveals. So this is another view of Park Street as you look left down towards the Hilton. You can see here that there is use of public art intended to fill in some blank spaces to take advantage of those where windows or entries are not possible. Canopies are intended here and here to accentuate the garage openings. There's some mechanical equipment here that is screened. You get a little bit more of the articulation of the building in this perspective. And this is Senate Street. So once again, brick anchors each end of the building. And again, the articulation and detailing is very good here, as is the fenestration pattern. Again, here is, let's see, retail here. This would be lobby for the building and the entry there. I believe the use of brick is continued here, just a different color. However, all of this section, the midsection, which is a fairly large section of the building, is also metal panel. So window reveal, again, is a concern here, as well as the use of so much metal, which is not recommended by the guidelines. Additionally, this has got a very elongated look, and it doesn't have the sort of breakup that we get of the massing with the brick components on either end, which sort of separates the building into smaller segments, more like smaller sized buildings you see in the Vista. So staff feels that a more vertical accentuation is needed on this segment of the building to break up that massing. So that would be one example of dividing it somehow, use of material perhaps into bays. The architects have moved that section of the building back several inches so that it does separate from the brick components a bit. So it is differentiated by those by a little bit of distance, but it still needs some more vertical articulation to meet the guidelines. So this is the view looking down Senate Street. You'll notice that there is ample opportunity for some street furniture here, which would be reviewed per the guidelines. And this is looking at from the other end of the building down Senate towards the Capitol. Once again, really good articulation of the brick components here. You can start to see more of the back of the building as it faces west here. There is a garage entry here. There is some blank walls along the pedestrian way. Sorry, here, finally got the red button, which we're not seeing in this perspective, but will show up later, which the architects are addressing again with public art. So this is the view that we would get on the side of the building from Gervais Street. So looking here is the brick component, and then I believe all of this is pretty much metal panel. This top is a cementitious panel. This is the top of the building that's stepping back 25 feet from the facade of the building as required by the overlay district. I believe that most of this is in the same wall plane as is this, and we can get clarification from the architects on this. Staff finds that this massing is particularly over large and needs additional work. You'll see from some later perspectives how it will read from further in the district, but it needs more articulation, hopefully a lot more separation between particularly materials here, which reads almost more as sort of a mill building, which I understand, but still too large for this district. Again, it would be a very large use of materials that are not permitted per the guidelines, mostly metal panels here. So those would not have the profile dimensions and finish of something like brick or stucco. This, again, is just an effort at getting an idea of what some segmentation, that would help on the building. And then moving to the back of the building as it faces west, some similar issues here. So use of a lot of metal here, cementitious panels here, which might work. Staff has some concerns about window reveal in both of these materials that the architects can address. But a nice, brick material here, the back of the building. So as one stands at the back of the building on Senate Street, you are going to see this primarily, but this part of the building will be visible as you're on the street here. And then, of course, it's going to be visible from various aspects of the vista. So these are materials that were submitted, cementitious panels, metal panels, brick, masonry veneer at the far left. Again, some concerns over those metal panels particularly. And here is a drawing of how the windows might work in those different materials, the metal and the brick. So you can see here that we've got about a 4-inch reveal. I am so sorry, this is a little too sensitive for me. We've got a little 4-inch recess in the windows there, so you get that depth that you get in historic windows and on historic buildings. But as you look at the metal panels to the left, you see that the windows are really sort of flush with the wall plane, which is a big concern when you have such a large massing on the back and the north side of the building. So seeing some shadow lines would really help to break up the massing, to give the building some depth, in addition to other efforts to reduce the massing. So that's one perspective from Gervais Street that the architects provided. That's what we would see on the back of the building from Gervais Street. Again, another angle from Gervais Street looking back up towards the building. From Lincoln Street, the very back of the building, this is the west. And then a bird's eye view sort of from probably Gadsden Street in the vista, looking across to the back of the building. So the applicants will have their own presentation and show you some more slides that they've put together for us. But staff has recommended deferral in order to address the additional breaking up of the massing on the central components of the Senate Street elevation, with an emphasis on articulating more verticality. Additional significant breakup of massing and articulation on the north and west elevations to better reflect historic patterns in the district. Metal panels to be used only as a secondary material. Minimum window depth of 4 inches on all windows, or I will add a little more understanding about how those might work in some of these alternate materials. Historic window pane configurations to be used in place of contemporary window pane configurations. The placement of an entry door on Park Street to continue the pattern of business entries along the street. The use of awnings to mark each retail business entry. Details of storefront trim, glass, and doors to be approved by staff. To replace contemporary-looking fenestration on Park and Senate elevations to be more reflective of the sort of pattern of historic fenestration. Brick and mortar colors to be approved by staff. All site design issues, public art, service areas, and mechanical screening to be reviewed and approved by either preservation or appropriate staff. Signage to be reviewed and approved by staff, and any outstanding details to be approved by staff. Any questions?
Yeah, questions? Yeah.
I have one, maybe two. One of the comments in your staff review was that DDRC has the ability or authority to reduce or or enlarge the height restriction in certain cases, and I thought the wording was to reduce it. Do we also have the ability to relax that? And what's the authority
Did you say to relax that,
to allow higher?
to allow higher? There's an 80-foot limit there by zoning.
Yeah, it's 80, but
No,
we do have the authority or to say you can't go to 80 or,
well, you have the, per the ordinance language, you can empower a downward adjustment
power, yeah.
of
Empower.
1/2 story in the number of stories based on the number of stories of structures that predominate in the immediate area.
We could only allow or require, or we're empowered to say go lower, but we're not empowered to say you may go higher.
No.
Okay, that was just nothing to do with the project.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question as well. There was a public letter expressing concern about the number of parking spaces. Is that in our purview as DDRC?
That is not. Thank you for bringing that up. There's site plan review that will take place at the Planning Commission next month for this project. So they will review those issues.
Okay. Is the applicant here to present? All right. Yeah, whoever is speaking, yeah, please come up. Make sure you signed in. I'll swear you in, and then you can present.
I'll sign in after.
That'll be fine. And make sure you speak into the microphone so everybody can hear you, please.
Yeah,
And just state your name.
Matt Swedenberg.
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Great. Well, first off, so I represent Subtext. I'm a development manager there over this project. We want to thank Amy and Tristan for all the time that we've been able to spend working through this. There's been a lot of back and forth over the last, I want to say 4 or 5 months when we first got here. So thank you so much to y'all for helping us through this process and getting us to this point. We've also worked with the Vista Property Owners Association along with the Vista Guild. We've met with both of them and have had a great conversation as we've gone through the process. And so specifically on Subtext, I won't spend too much time because I know we want to get into the design, but we're a fully functional real estate development company focused in residential, doing both multifamily and student housing across the country. These are some of our brands. This specific project is local, and we like to
That's interesting. That's not on our screens. No. First I thought I was missing something, then I looked up, but I said, wait a minute. Yeah, hold on just 1 second.
all good.
Did y'all realize that? Okay. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Now we got it. We're back. Yes, thank you. Okay, sorry.
All good. So I just wanted to point out here, so we are developing this under our local brand, which is more geared towards multifamily and young adults in the area. We also have a project under construction in Columbia under our Verve brand, which is specific to student housing. But as I said, this one would be specific local brand and multifamily. And I believe next is Neil.
Hi, state your name, please.
Neil Reardon, ESG Architecture and Design.
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you.
Here to talk a little bit about the design approach and just add a little bit of commentary from our perspective on the staff report and the items. So I'll go through some of the imagery you've already seen in floor plans, but focus on some new content here in the time we have. So my office is ESG. We work on a lot of multifamily projects across the country, and very similar projects to this within historic districts are in our portfolio. So
Microphone
happy
is
to
loud,
do
a
so.
little louder.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I'll get a little lower. All right, you're all aware of the site here, so this is just context setting here. Within the overlay and the zoning districts, which has already been mentioned, and on the edges of both of those, and there you see the site with the historic district overlay to almost all the northwest, There's the site again. The lower level of parking is just, one note here, is access from Senate only, and it's fully concealed. So all this parking is 100% concealed. A little blurry there as it comes through. The level 1 parking is accessed from Park Street in 2 spots as noted, and again, concealed parking that is hidden from the street. And you've seen some of the renderings already where the murals and other design elements have been considered. The upper level plan here, which includes some amenities and a interior courtyard. A typical plan, this would be levels 3 through 5 of the building. And then where that step back that was already mentioned takes place of 25 feet, this is compliant with the zoning regulations. And so this then is the 6th and 7th story of the building. Here you see this in a conceptual cross section. And what this shows again is just the spots of the building where we're 55 feet and 5 stories, and where we're an additional 2 stories and under 80 feet. And then I thought I'd just overview kind of 2 different sides of the project. It really takes 2 forms here. There's the Park and Senate side, and then there's the north and west side. So first I'll go over the Park and Senate renderings. And as we see here, we have the primary brick as mentioned, and then 2 particular locations of a copper-toned metal panel, and those are both along Park, as already noted, and then that 3-story portion above the more tan brick along Senate. Here you see that in that elevation that staff had already brought up. A couple of notes here. The fenestration pattern is what is presented as it is because of the way multifamily housing lays out, and those windows have a pattern with the use on the inside. And so just a clarification point on why we arrived at that particular proportion and arrangement of windows. One thing to note here is the difference between the retail storefront there on the right, where it says signage in kind of that green banding, and then a different version of that storefront. We are amenable to making those more similar involving changing the residential one to be a little more complementary of the style of storefront within the district. Here you see that in a little more detail zoomed in. And so I just note that comment again. We do add a overhead metal canopy here to announce that entry. It's kind of the main difference between the 2. One last thing on that, you can kind of see in a little more detail this copper metal panel that exists in those upper 3 stories along the Senate facade. Here's that Park facade once again. You've seen that before. 5 stories going up to the 7-story setback. Oh, and I may have lost my ability to change the slide.
Oh, really?
I'll try one more time here.
Is it moving?
There it is. Okay. And you've seen this rendering before. Just wanted to highlight, we do have a screened utility portion there in between these 2 entries. And then we're flushing out these walls with some murals at this time. Here's a new perspective that was not in staff's packet that we prepared. No new content here, but just further illustrating some of the landscaping and how we're addressing and creating an active street use here with some of the other design revisions that have happened in front of other buildings along Park. Really think that this could be a dynamic street facade leading to our retail bay at the corner of Park and Senate. You've seen this one before as well. Just the composition as you turn the corners of the building. Sometimes the straight-on elevations aren't a real view, so we like to include a lot of these perspectives. Getting in a little tighter, again, focusing on the street life. Adding some murals along this half wall underneath these are residential units where you see these first floor windows. So we have a little bit of boulevard there that's in the public right of way. So we're, to the extent of the purview of this committee, we are addressing our facade to that context. That's what this is representing. And then just getting in a little bit to to the question on window details, we have, 4-inch recesses within the brick zones, and then we are going to commit to 4-inch recesses in the copper toned material on the Park and Senate side. We're able to do that on those primary facades that are public facing at each material. Here again is getting in a little bit tighter. You can see this vertical oriented copper metal panel and how we believe we can appropriately fenestrate those windows with the constraints we have on how the building lays out on the inside. Again, here's some more typical details illustrating what I just noted. And then same here with respect to that copper material. So then the north and west views. What we wanted to do was fully present these and add a few more views even than were in the packet for staff. This red material is a metal panel. It's horizontally oriented, and it is a little flatter. There's not as much depth to it. We have some constraints on that side of the building, which allows us to not portray as much detail there. We've omitted it on that side electively, as this is the back, we see this is the back of the building where you would typically add less architectural detail. So I think you've seen this one. This is the view from Lincoln, where you do get, as you move around on Lincoln and Gervais, you get peaks at the building. You see it sometimes and you don't see it other times. We've represented here a number of locations where you do see it. But if you were on the other side of the street, you get a glimpse at it. And then you're on this side of the street, you get, the upper 3-4 stories. You've seen this one as well. Here's an instance where it's just not seen. So we kind of did a study and really wanted to understand where it is seen and where it isn't. And then where does it come in partially? Say you're across on the north side of Gervais, moving closer to Park. This would be the view behind the other buildings within the district. And then lastly, from Park and Gervais, the angle there you see sort of all blends together as a background, I guess, to the historic district. So then a summary of the items of discussion, building on what staff already presented. Here were the summary. So in green are the items we're wholly committing to on changes with noted responses on the right. And then the ones in yellow, I'll just note that are sort of partial areas where we can work with staff to become compliant, but we can't do everything asked for.
So help me, the color coding here, green is a go and yellow is discussion? I'm just following, is that what that is?
Right, if one point of clarification, if the intent here tonight is to have a deferral to you, commissioners, the items in yellow, I suppose, are under that category. That is all I have for presentation, so I will gladly be available
We'll
for
open up
questions.
to any questions from commissioners. I mean, we're always excited with big projects like this, but there's a lot to here to be discussed. I can see where staff's concerns are coming from, but I'm going to open it up to other commissioners. But anybody like to speak or ask a
Yeah, if
question?
you'll actually bring the slide back up, I think if you can leave it there, I think it'll be good for conversation. But I guess you made a comment that there was the section of the backside of the building, it seemed like the design kind of fell off a little bit there because it's the back of the building. But I would say as you work through this process with staff, treat the back of the building like it's visible, because from all the renderings you gave, except for maybe 2, it's highly visible around the city. So treat it like it's primary facade. To me, it's very prominent, very visible. So just don't back off on design in that section.
Yeah, I agree. It's seen from West Columbia as well. I trust you can do it, but I'm just curious. On the wood frame portion, floors 3 through 7, you say you can commit to the 4-inch deep jam on the primary facades. Is that a 2x4 framed wall? And if so, how can you get that 4-inch depth?
Yeah, it's not about the difference in the wall necessarily, Commissioner. It would be about the difference in the material itself. So it's much easier to achieve that with a brick cavity wall than it is with the materials we're using on the north and the west side. So that's the reality of it. So
Absolutely. So did I hear you say that you are committing to the 4-inch jam at the in the fiber cement panel on those primary facades?
No, so I thank you for that point of clarification, Commissioner. Within the primary materials that are in the 5-story portion on Park and Senate, we're committing to that 4-inch window recess.
Within the brick on Park and Senate, essentially?
Correct, yes. Yep.
Now, I would just, I'm talking to my fellow commissioners, especially my fellow architects. Sometimes with a project like this, of this size, with this many items, when we have some in yellow, we can defer, or we can even do a subcommittee, which we've done a couple of times, where we select people have met with the team here to kind of come up with a refined concept or vision. So I'm throwing that out for consideration amongst the commissioners.
Is that more of an informal meeting or approaching a design
is.
charrette or some?
It is more informal, and why, Amy, do a better definition of it. It's not really a public meeting, it's a subcommittee meeting just with them and us to kind of review some of these concerns and what they're proposing as solutions, and if anyone here has any creative ideas.
I'd be happy if both our architects on the commission were involved in that.
Yeah, Amy, did I describe it correctly?
Yeah, it's a work session, and as the chair said, it's actually open to the public, but not for public comment, so.
We've done a couple over the years on bigger projects, and, yeah.
It gives you a chance to work out issues in an easier environment than a public forum.
Sure. And of course, we would expect them to come with some solutions for us to discuss and give, some comment on. So just so you know what the expectation is,
You guys would be agreeable to that if it's more just throwing ideas around and coming to some common ground?
Yeah, we hadn't specifically talked about doing that version of that. I guess I'd have to check with staff on timeline of that.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah, we usually try to squeeze those in between meetings, so we would try to do something like that before the December meeting.
That's
As soon
right.
as possible, really.
The idea would be to come up and have another kind of powwow before you come back to the next one with hopefully a refined solution. I'm just throwing that out. The issue, if you defer it without that, it's just, you come back to us next time and we see what you've worked out, and we may do that again. Who knows, just so you can understand the layout.
Sure, understood. So a point of clarification would be a working session with the subcommittee, approach A, if you will, and then approach B, just come back with a different solution to this very meeting next month. That would be.
Like I said, if this was all in green, I'd feel a bit more staff was empowered to come up. I think there's some areas here that need some conversation, probably. That's my opinion. I mean, please, Commissioner, speak up, what you're thinking.
No, I mean, I agree. I think if what you're saying is in yellow is we're not sure we can achieve that. And to me, what you have in yellow are pretty significant items that staff mentioned, probably do need a working session.
Sure, I'll just, as a couple of examples, we already noted the 4-inch window recess where we would be partially complying with that. So that's noted on the right-hand side there, where we would partially comply and then not, we're not ready to comply on all of it. And then with respect to the one towards the bottom there, replacing the contemporary fenestration pattern, that's a little bit like working through the interpretation of what is contemporary, what isn't, and so that one.
And we'd love to discuss that with you, I'm sure, at length.
Right, and perhaps the
But yeah.
subcommittee is the appropriate.
Probably, I don't, it's going to be hard to get to a solution today because you're not going to be able to show us, I think visually understanding. This is a big project, right? So it's got a big presence and it's a big project. I'm not sure
Yeah,
what else to
and
say.
I'd agree. I think you mentioned at the beginning, this is going to be probably one of the largest building projects in the Vista area in quite a while. So I think we want to make sure we get this one right.
Well, I got a little more to say about the west and north elevations, and I agree with my fellow commissioners that treating them as the back of the building or, a less important or secondary facade, I think doesn't really do justice to the fact that you're in a historic district. And when people are in the historic district, they are going to be seeing the western and northern facades. And Lincoln Street in particular, that's probably the only place, or one of the few places left where we have brick pavement, railroad lines in the street. you really know you're in the historic district when you're walking along Lincoln. Lincoln gets a lot of traffic from the convention center, the athletic, whatever it's called, Colonial Life. It's a tremendous amount of foot traffic. And when we have just opened Finley Park, and so there's going to be a lot more traffic to and from the Vista on Lincoln. So I'd emphasize that Lincoln is really important from somebody being in the district and having that ambiance and the feeling of where you are. Likewise, Gervais, that's our main corridor, the backbone, the heart, and that's where you see the most people walking around during the day and at night. If you want to understand how important Gervais Street is for pedestrian traffic, stick around for a few hours tonight. We're going to have the Vista Lights celebration. There'll be thousands of people out there, and they're going to be seeing the skyline. So I really would hope that you can do more with the Gervais Street side of the building. I got a question about the Park Street elevation. There's something I don't understand on the drawings. There's something between the two vehicle entrances. There's something that looks like a pair of double doors. It showed up on the first drawing, site plan, pretty clearly. Is that, well, it's kind of masked by trees. Is that a mechanical something that's being masked, or is that the dumpsters, or?
Let's see.
What is the-
Just a point of clarification, is it the white zone?
Between the two vehicle entrances?
Yeah, so happy to say that. I don't go to the site plan here in a second. That is the utility provider's transformer area, which we are screening.
Electrical.
And we're able to put it in that location. We're able to, we actually have a slight setback because of the power lines along Park Street, which we've worked through in a good way with the utility provider. And that's the spot for the transformers. They'd be fully screened and enclosed, and they'd be sort of nicely sitting in a good way in between both of those announced
Yeah, I saw the
exit and
electrical
entry.
inside the parking garage, and I didn't know what was going on outside. One stray comment. There's two vehicle entrances on Park, and one of the staff comments, which I agree with, is get more vitality on Park Street. And I'm wondering if it's possible to just combine the two into one and in and out and give you more space to do some other programming along the street. Don't have to answer yes or no now, but that's just a thought.
Commissioner, thank you for that comments. Yes, we like doing that when possible, and we can take a look at marrying that. But it does function best as this way due to the part that is secure and the part that is
You've
not.
got an in and out on Senate, and I'm wondering, do you need an in and an out on Park? So one of the comments that we read over and over again in the staff report is use historic references. And I had to go back to the National Register nomination and for an understanding of the character defining features. The windows of the upper stories frequently have brick arches, semicircular, segmental, or flat, and occasional surrounds in stone. And we also see a lot of these arched doorways on the warehouses, and I'm wondering if some arched windows wouldn't be a real easy way to pick up some historical references, some historical clues. Every one of the windows I see is rectangular, but think about some arched windows. That's what we see so commonly in the district.
Sure. Yeah. No complaints from me about arched windows. I'm a sucker for them as well. However, they're difficult and costly to achieve with modern, construction techniques, and so that's really the reason we haven't pursued that. But I could. I've always liked it as an idea, if appropriate and able to be logistically carried out. I didn't see an opportunity here on the upper levels for that particularly, but I thank you for the comment. Well, as we work through things, we can.
It might work on the upper levels, and it might be possible to have like a rectangular window in an arched opening. I don't know if that's any more or less costly, but That arch is something you see over and over again riding around the Vista and other areas. And it's something you see on the bigger buildings. Your neighbor for your other project, the Palmetto Compress, has a lot of arched windows, and the State Museum, it used to be the Palmetto or the cotton factory.
Right.
A lot of arched windows. So it's such a common element in the Vista. I'm surprised. I guess it's an expense thing, a cost thing. But and I agree with the staff recommendation on materials. That is a really important thing if you want a good quality project. And I'm wondering if floor 6 and 7 could be a lighter colored brick instead of cement panels. But anyway, I appreciate you guys' investment in the city. You've already made a big investment down there at Blossom and Hugie, and I appreciate your willingness to go further. But I think we have a lot more work to do, or a little bit more work to do, so.
No, thank you. All right. Any other comments, question? Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, do you have a
Yeah, I
follow-up
think
comment? Yes.
I think we would be open to that subcommittee meeting rather than just getting deferred, but having that meeting so we can discuss with everyone and try to come to some mutual solutions before we come back.
Yeah, and that's a good question, Amy. When we do the committees, do we still have to defer it with that note, or how is that motioned?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you would defer the projects. You're not making a motion to
Yeah.
approve.
And recommend a subcommittee?
And recommend a
Okay, yeah.
subcommittee.
All right.
Right.
Okay, all right, that's good. Just wanted to clarify. All right. I
And just to
appreciate that.
confirm, on schedule, we would still be on the next hearing for next month with
Right,
the
that's
meeting.
the
Yes, we'll be
goal.
spending Thanksgiving together apparently, so yeah.
We
Yeah,
have
well-
to schedule our 2 architects who are working people,
Yeah.
as are you, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably what I would want to do is send out
Get some dates
get
together
some dates.
very
as-
soon.
Like tomorrow, for us to try to get together. We could do that remotely with you guys and set something up so we can keep you on track.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll do everything we can to keep it on track, that's for sure, so.
Sure.
I guess we know what you'll be doing over Thanksgiving. Okay, all right. So that sounds good. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did anyone from the public sign up to speak on this matter? Yes, come on up, please. Have you already signed in too, sir? Okay, yeah, you can sign in a minute if you'd like to state your name.
I'm Daniel.
And
Gonna sign up here?
You can after you speak if you want to, or now. All right, and Jim, you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you.
3 comments. Looking at, we'll go back to the front elevation along Lincoln Street, or the one that was before that. It shows the white, red, and the other. There you go. Question. We've got 3 colors there, the red panel, the white, that panel of brick, and then you've got the red brick on the right. When you were showing a close-up of the red brick on the right, it has a predominance of blue in it rather than a solid red brick. So if I'm seeing that right, now we've got 4 colors all intermixing there on the front, which seems to me to get a little bit heavy or confusing. I think in the old days, you never painted a house with more than 3 colors. But they might want to look at that. Secondly, do these windows open? Sir, are these windows open? The windows do not open, so you have no way to get air into the units other than heating and air conditioning. Why can't we have windows that open? And thirdly, have they priced, this is supposed to be not student housing, but more market rate housing. Do they have a price in mind that they're looking at per bedroom? The typical student apartment rental bedroom rate is now $1,000 to $1,200 a bed. Do we have any idea what your market rate?
I will say, I'm not sure if that's in our purview,
Yeah,
of
it's
what we're
not our
doing.
purview.
But yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think that's in our purview, but I hear you.
It's sort of,
Yeah,
if you're saying you're not a student house, if you say you're a student housing, you're in this certain rent structure.
Gotcha.
If you say you are a market rate structure, then you're going to be in a different rate structure. So I guess I get back to, they say it's not student housing, but when we look at what's being built in the Vista and who the tenants are, I mean, it's almost all students, other than isolated stuff. Thanks.
Appreciate, thank you. Anybody else from the public sign up? Okay. All right, well, so with that, I'm going to open it up. Is someone comfortable making a motion here? Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to defer the project at 931 Senate Street. In addition to form a subcommittee to meet at a date and time to be determined, but before the December DDRC meeting.
Someone second, please.
Second. Ms. Jaco?
Yes?
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg? Mr. Lee Decker?
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. All right, next case.
We're waiting for the PowerPoint to come back on.
Oh, we're just glad we're seeing it.
All right. All right, so the next project is 1125 Haygood Avenue. This is a request for a design approval, certificate of design approval for an addition and a carport in the Melrose Heights Oak Lawn Architectural Conservation District. The existing house is a one-story bungalow from the 1920s, features very simple rectangular form with a hip roof, central chimney, and a partial width front porch. The application today is for an addition and a carport. The addition will be roughly 800 square feet of interior living space coming out the back of the existing house, with an additional 12 feet wide by 23 feet long screen porch off of the side of the addition. The carport is proposed to be placed to the left of the house, directly in front of the new side porch. And all new structures have been proposed to have hip roofs to match the house. Standard practice in historic districts is to recommend that additions be placed off the rear of historic structures, so that when viewing the historic property from the street, the addition is not visible, and thus the streetscape remains historically intact. While the addition is attached to the rear of the house, the addition is wider than the house on the left with the inclusion of the screen porch, meaning that the addition will be more visible from the street than is typically recommended. The applicant is proposing the use of living walls or some type of screening material to aid in screening the side porch from the street. The location of the carport will also partially screen the side porch. And these are just views. So this is generally the location where you're going to see the carport, and behind it would be the addition and the porch. From this side, the addition would be set in pretty far, still be partially visible, possibly, maybe from the side street. But generally speaking, the fenestration and patterns on the right side of the addition were in keeping with the standards. So you can see here on the floor plan, the addition off the back, again, with the side porch coming out to the side and the carport in front of it. So starting with the carport, the guidelines say to construct garage and story buildings so they reflect the character of the existing house and are compatible in terms of height, scale, and roof shape. And to place them away from the primary facade of the building and do not let them obscure character-defining features of the building. So with the current proposal, the carport proposed at the left side of the house is 20 feet back from the front of the house. But as drawn, the carport is shown to have a very large frieze board underneath the eave, top of the columns, which is not compatible with the details of the house. So staff is recommending to remove that frieze board, simplify the form so it's more in keeping with the historic house with simple hip roof. Again, this just shows it from the side, and I've attempted to put screening where the screen porch would be more or less. It's not entirely accurate. And this is the right side of the addition off the back. And this is just to show how far in it's set off from that side. So again, that side is not a primary concern with staff. The primary concern that staff has is with the massing of the addition with the porch coming off to the side of the building. The existing house is roughly rectangular in form with a partial width front porch and a non-original bay window being the only variation in massing as seen from the street. While the massing of the interior space of the addition reinforces the original form by continuing the mass of the building straight back, the side porch does create a more complicated massing that is not consistent with the original form. Here is part of the site plan, more or less, that shows where the proposed screening would go and an example of the type of screening they are looking at. And this is just to show it on an aerial view of the actual lot, the massing of the addition in relation to the house. Since packets were sent out, the applicant has provided staff with this rendering to aid in showing what the screening could look like at this property. So with regard to the screening, living walls or panels, generally the DDRC and staff have not considered plants to be an adequate screening material on their own. However, the applicant is proposing a structure to aid screening to allow for plants to grow rather than it just being trees or such that other people have proposed in the past. One other staff concern, which we need to address, is that the living wall as drawn on the site plan appears to be a fence. And this was confirmed by the zoning administrator just because of the way it encloses space. So if zoning considers the living wall to be a fence, we are limited to a 6-foot height. So staff has recommended that these panels, rather than one solid structure, be broken up into smaller panels so that it is more of a landscaping feature rather than meeting the definition of a fence as stated in our UDO. The height of the living wall will affect the visibility of the side porch, but must also not appear incongruous with the streetscape and historic patterns. If approved, staff recommends that the living wall be no more than 8 feet in height. So staff recommendations are in 2 parts. First recommendation regarding the carport and the rear addition only, excluding the proposed screen porch and the living wall section. Staff finds that the proposed carport and rear addition at 1125 Haygood Avenue is mostly in keeping with sections 3 and 4 of the Melrose Heights Oaklawn Architectural Conservation District guidelines and recommends granting a certificate of design approval only with the following conditions. The height of the carport will be lowered by removing the frieze board at the top of the columns. All roofs will be true standing seam metal to match the profile of the existing roof, and all other details be deferred to staff. With regard to the side porch and screening, staff does find that the porch on its own is not in keeping with the guidelines. However, since we've been provided with this new rendering, staff in the DDRC only do have purview over features that are visible from the street. So if the DDRC finds that the newly provided drawing demonstrates appropriate screening, meaning that the side porch is not visible or minimally visible from the street, staff recommends conditioning any approval with the following items. The living wall at the front of the carport will be separated into panels and will be no more than 8 feet tall. The living walls listed as optional, which are at the back of the carport, will be installed for further screening. And any screening, plant screening that is used on these panels be an evergreen. I think that is it.
Any commissioners have any questions of staff?
Yeah, I guess one of the questions I have, is there any other cases where DDRC has approved something that on initial finding from staff, we did not find in keeping with the guidelines, but because we built a barrier or screening, we allowed it to go through? Would this be new? Is this something that is common or has happened in the past?
I can think of a project in Wales Garden where that was allowed. It was an outbuilding that was not, in staff's opinion, in keeping with the architecture of the historic house it was associated with. And so the DDRC did approve screening on their gate at that time in order to approve the outbuilding.
Do you, I guess in y'all's opinion, do you feel like the screen addresses the massing issue? Or in your professional opinion, the massing issue is still a concern? So kind of think of an outbuilding as maybe being a little separate because of the structure, the dwelling's broken up. But with this being attached to the primary structure, do you feel like the massing issue still exists there?
I do, but again, you know, we haven't seen, a real rendering of what is proposed yet. I mean, there's still a lot of questions about, and the applicant is here and they can speak to this, but, you know, what materials would be used, you know, how they're gonna design it and all that. It's still kind of question that's up in the air, which is one of staff's concerns, is that there's no definitive plan. There was no plan that said what the height was gonna be of the living panels. I think they're flexible. Again, they can speak to that if the DDRC has any recommendations for what might be approvable. But yeah, so if the screening can be designed in such a way so that it's minimally visible from the street, the side porch, you know, it is behind the carport, it's behind the house, then staff would be comfortable approving it.
Okay, and then I guess the last question I'll let other commissioners ask. Is it the fact that it is a screening porch, so the height of it is what's causing the massing concern? If it was say like a regular porch, you know, walk off, you know, maybe 4, 5, 6 feet off the ground, would it still have the same massing concern because it's coming off the side of the building, or, okay.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the screening, in a sense, if you're gonna see it from the street, and we can, you know, ignoring the living walls right now, you know, if you were to see a screened-in porch from the street, it's gonna have a more solid massing because it's got the, you know, the walls rather than just a big open space. But from what, I guess staff's main concern regarding this is the location of that screen porch rather than the fact that it's screened.
Okay, does that?
Yeah, I guess you've answered all my questions. The only thing I would say is if we did go that route, I would probably add like one more final condition on that of before final, you know, approval, when we close out this project, that staff feels that the side porch is adequately screened. So there'd be like at least a final check to say, hey, what we thought initially screened it actually did screen it, right? Because right now we're kind of potentially saying we don't agree with it, but we may let it go forward. If we let it go forward, we need to verify that we achieved some level of screening.
Yes, so,
That would be something too. We would need to make sure we put in the guardrails and whatever I hear you. Do we want the applicant to speak a second, or do y'all have other questions for staff? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no,
Rachel.
it's okay. I was just gonna say, part of the building process is we are included in the inspection process as
Right.
well. So when there's a rough-in, when there's a final, staff does go out to the sites and make sure what is approved has been built. So that will be part of our process.
Okay. No, it's a good question, Claire. Would the applicant like to come up and speak?
Yes, ma'am. I had signed one outside.
Oh, that works.
Sign another one
Yeah.
if you need me to.
Please state your name,
Hal Stevenson,
and do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you.
So a little bit of backstory. We have lived in Melrose Heights for 8 years on Fairview Drive, and then we moved over to Haygood down the street, 1511. We did 2 additions there, one out the back and then one on the side where this was before it was an historic district. But our great room, they took bricks off the side and interspersed those with new brick that you can't even really tell it wasn't part of the original structure. So that house is now on the historic register, and we're very proud of it. My good friend Boo Boo is not here now because I guess he got tired of listening to the other presentation, but they've lived across the street from us for 30 years. Our daughter and grandchildren, son-in-law, live out in Forest Acres, and so we decided that they wanted to be in the Brennan School District, to sell them our house. And at the time, we were considering just building on our next door lot, which was next to our house, which has got some 100-year-old camellias and a nice big live oak on it. We would have to take all of that down. So after, kind of just thinking all that through, we started thinking, well, maybe we ought to look for something else. So this house came on the market. The real estate agent lives in the neighborhood, called me. I went down there and looked at it, put in a contract, I got it. My wife, at this point, did not know that I had done that. So I was sweating it out a little bit. So she did like it, but of course, we're stepping down from 3,200 square foot to 1,600. It was kind of the best of all worlds, because early on, a lot of people were moving out to Kings Grant in one day, and I said, honey, you want to move out there? It's new houses, everything's in the right spot. And she said, yeah, you can move out there, but I'm not moving out there. So we have a real commitment to the neighborhood and historic nature of it. So as we started getting into this project, Allison Hank is here with me. She and her partner are working with us on the remodeling. They are not architects. They do some of the drawings that you've seen. And so we're very much wanting to comply with the staff's desire for screening, but as you guys know, not having a screen porch in Columbia in the summer is not very pleasant. And going off the back, being farther, we'd be almost on the back property line, and that whole side of the yard over there is being a bit underused. If you look at the picture, I don't know if it's still on y'all's, our neighbor, Charles, has an apartment building in the back. I don't know when that was put in, sometime, in the last, it wasn't original to the property, I doubt. So you already got some massing there, and so we want everybody to be as proud of this house as they were of our other house. We do not want to cut any corners. We want to do things that are in line with what staff thinks we could do. So we're very much willing to be under a review process about materials. Allison, I don't see that being any problem, do you? So
And that's clearly a big part of this, is you working with staff to come up with a solution.
I think that we can do something really cool here if we end up not being able to do that. It's a relatively small house, so, if you can't expand it, we can't live there, which means we either sell it or rent it, which not be positive for the neighborhood, in my opinion. So we think, and that Photoshop part is my working, I've got a staff person who does that sort of thing. So I really don't know, but I really will want it to be something that Rachel says, man, this would be an awesome thing to do. And so working through it with them is what we fully expect to do. So
I think what we want to hear is just that you're willing to work with staff to come to a solution that everybody is happy with.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other comments from here? That'd be my biggest concern, so that's good to hear.
No, I know Hal, and I agree. You're a part of the community. You do right by the community. So
I don't want anybody in the neighborhood mad at me either, so,
I'm sure we'll know. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Did anybody else sign up to speak on this matter? Okay. All right. Does this have to be approached in two different items, or it can all be together? Okay, all right, just giving direction to whoever decides to do the motion here. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna open it up.
I'm not going to make all the motions tonight, I guess. One final comment before I make a motion. One thing, I guess, while you work with staff, I might explore is if you potentially reduce the screen-in porch 6 inches, a foot, or something like that, it might help reduce from like coming from Crave. You wouldn't see it as much behind the carport. Just something to explore. I'm not going to make it part of the motion, but just potentially could help with the massing concerns. Yeah.
That's the carport.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to note before you make it, because one thing Rachel said, which I thought was good, and I didn't see it here, is about the evergreen element of the living
Yeah,
wall.
yeah, I'm gonna
So,
put
just
that on
move that
there.
into your, if it was here, I just didn't see it. Okay.
All right, so I'll make a motion to grant a certificate of design approval at 1125 Haygood with the following conditions: that the Frazee board at the top of the columns be eliminated and the height of the carport be lowered as a result. All roofs be true standing seam metal to match the profile of the existing roof. All details relating to the extension of the house and the carport and the screen-in porch defer to staff. And these next comments are specifically to the screen-in porch and the living wall to screen them. That the living wall at the front of the carport be separated into panels and will be no more than 8 feet tall. That the living wall panels listed as optional at the back of the carport be installed to increase screening. That the plant material on the living wall be evergreen, and that final inspection of the living wall from staff ensures that adequate screening of the screened-in porch is achieved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Can you also state the sections of the guidelines?
All right, I'll amend that to say that it pertains to sections 3 and 4 of the Melrose Heights Oaklawn Architectural Conservation District guidelines.
All right. Ms. Jaco?
Yes.
Ms. Gallo?
Yes.
Mr. Greenberg? Mr. Ledecker?
Yes.
Mr. McKenzie?
Yes.
Mr. Shelton?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, is there any other business tonight, Amy? All right, somebody give us a motion to adjourn in a second?
So moved.
Thank you. All right.
Invite y'all all to go down into the Vista tonight and enjoy Vista Lights. We'll be